Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Daily English Talk Today, where learning English is easy and fun. I'm Emma.
And I'm Jack. We are here to help you learn real, everyday English.
Please help us and other learners by clicking like and subscribe.
Today, we are going to learn a very useful skill: how to talk about your last year.
Yes, we will start with a little warm-up chat.
Then, we will have a long conversation about what we did last year. You will hear many useful sentences.
After that, we will practice more examples, learn important phrases, review key words, and have a fun quiz.
Are you ready? Let's go.
So, Jack, how are you today?
I'm really good, thanks. I had a nice, quiet weekend. It was relaxing.
Oh, that sounds lovely. What did you do?
Well, on Saturday, I finished a book I was reading, and on Sunday, I called my family. How about you?
My weekend was busy but fun. I met some friends for coffee on Saturday. We talked for hours.
That's great. Talking about recent things is easy, right? But today, we need to think a little more about the whole last year.
That's true. A year is a long time. It can be hard to remember everything.
But it's a wonderful thing to talk about with friends. So let's try.
So, we're really going to talk about our whole last year. It feels like a big topic.
It does, but we don't need to remember every single day. Just the big things, the fun things, maybe the hard things.
That's true. Okay, I'll start. When I think about last year, my first memory is actually New Year's Eve. Do you remember?
Of course I remember. We went to that small party at Maya's house.
Yes, it was cold and snowy outside, but inside it was warm and full of friends. We played games and laughed a lot. We welcomed the new year together. It was a really happy start.
It was a very happy start. My January was quiet after that. I went back to work and it was a normal month. But then in February, things changed. My manager at work called me for a meeting.
Oh, I remember you were nervous about that.
I was, but it was good news. She asked me to lead a new project. A small team, but an important project. I said yes, but I was very scared.
You didn't look scared. You looked excited.
A little bit of both. So from February, my life became about that project. I worked late sometimes. I thought about it all the time. What about your February?
My February was the opposite. It was slow. I caught a bad cold and stayed home for a week. I drank a lot of tea and watched old movies.
Not so fun.
Not fun at all. But it gave me time to think, and I decided I wanted to learn something, to have a personal project too, but not for work. So when I felt better, I looked for cooking classes.
But you were very friendly. You smiled, you asked questions.
I tried, and people were helpful. Slowly, I started to understand, and I discovered the work was more interesting. By June, I felt much better. I even enjoyed it.
Good. So in June, my project was finishing. We worked very hard to finish on time, and we did. The last day of June, we presented our work to the company. It was a success.
I was so proud of you. We went to a nice restaurant that night.
We did. To celebrate both things, my finished project and your new job going well. Summer was beginning, and we were both happy.
Summer. Last summer was so hot, remember?
How can I forget? July was impossible. My apartment was like an oven. I bought a big fan and sat in front of it.
I went to the swimming pool every weekend. It was the only way to feel cool. And then in August, you visited your parents.
Yes, 2 weeks away from the city. Their house has a big garden with many trees. It's always cooler there. We worked in the garden every morning, then sat in the shade in the afternoon. It was simple and peaceful. No computers, no phones much.
It sounded perfect. My August was different. My friend from university, Lisa, came to visit me for a week. We were tourists here.
What did you do?
Everything. We went to the art museum, the history museum, the big park, the river tour. We took so many photos. My feet hurt every night, but it was so fun. It was like seeing my city for the first time.
That's a wonderful way to spend time. Then autumn came. September is always a fresh start, I think.
It is. In September, my cooking classes finished. For my final test, I cooked a meal for 3 people, the teacher and 2 other students.
What did you make?
I made roasted chicken with vegetables and a chocolate cake for dessert.
And was it good?
The chicken was good. The cake was a little dry, but everyone ate it and said nice things, and I got my certificate. I framed it and put it in the kitchen.
You should have. That's a real achievement.
In September, I went back to the gym. After the summer, I felt slow and lazy.
And I tried to run in the park. I said I will run 3 times a week. I ran maybe 4 times total. Then I stopped.
It's the thought that counts. October was your family visit, right?
Yes, my parents and my little brother came for 5 days. It was lovely, but also a little crazy. My brother is a teenager. He's always hungry. We were always making food or looking for food.
Did you cook for them?
I cooked one big dinner. I was so nervous, but it was okay. My dad said, "My daughter is a chef now." It was a joke, but it made me happy.
I'm sure it was delicious. October for me was the car problem. My old car made a funny noise.
It made a funny noise for 2 years.
True, but in October, the noise became a very loud, scary noise. The garage said, "It's time for a new car," so I had to find one. It took all my free time for 2 weeks.
But you found a good one.
I did. A small blue car, very reliable. I felt very adult buying it.
November then. The weather got cold and dark early.
November is always a quiet month for me. I worked, I read, saw friends. Oh, I started a new book series, fantasy books. I read 3 of them in November.
That's a lot. I used my November weekends for nothing special. Cleaning my apartment, watching TV series, sometimes meeting you for coffee. It was a cozy month.
Cozy's good. And then December, the last month of the year. It's always busy with Christmas preparations.
So busy. I had to buy presents for everyone, send cards, decorate my apartment.
And you got sick again right before Christmas.
Oh, don't remind me. Yes, a bad throat. I lost my voice for 2 days. I had to cancel all my plans. I was so sad.
But you got better for Christmas Day. We had dinner at your friend's house.
Yes, and it was lovely. Good food, good people, a nice end to the year. What was your end of the year like?
On the last week of December at work, we had a review of the year. My manager talked about my project from the beginning of the year. She said very nice things about my work. It felt like a circle closing. It started and ended well.
That's wonderful, Jack.
Then, on New Year's Eve, again, we thought about the whole year. We talked about the good and the bad.
And we decided it was a year of growth. That's the word. We both grew. You became a project leader. I became a better cook and changed jobs. We had challenges, but we learned from them.
Exactly. My last year wasn't perfect. There was stress, there were problems with my old car, they were very hot days. But when I look back, I smile.
Me too. The happy memories are stronger. The difficult times, they just make the story more interesting.
So, that's how we talk about a whole year. You pick the important parts, the start, the projects, the seasons, the visits, the challenges, and the end.
And you don't need to use complicated words. Simple words about simple things. I started, I learned, I visited, I finished, I felt.
Right. The most important thing is to share your story. It's your year.
Okay, Jack, let's really help our friends. We talked about our year in a big story way. Now let's break it down into pieces. Let's give them clear sentences they can take and use for their own lives.
Great idea. Let's start with the most common topic, work or school. How would someone talk about their work last year?
Well, they can say how it was. For example, my work last year was very interesting. Or, my studies were difficult.
Right, and they can say what they did. I worked on a new project with my team. I finished an important course in June.
Perfect. They can also talk about changes. I started a new job in March. Or, I changed my department at work.
What if they didn't have a big change, just normal work?
That's fine. They can say, my work routine was normal last year. Or, I continued in my same job. It was stable.
Stable is a good word. Okay, next big topic, hobbies and free time. This is a fun one.
It is. They can talk about new hobbies. Last year, I took up painting. I began learning to play the guitar.
I got into gardening. That means you started to enjoy it a lot.
Yes. Or they can talk about continuing a hobby. I continued my yoga practice all year. I kept reading every night before bed.
They can also talk about stopping a hobby. I stopped playing video games because I was too busy, but maybe say why.
Good point. Let's give a full example. Last year, I started going to the cinema more often. I saw maybe 10 films.
Nice. My example, I didn't have much free time last year, but I always listened to podcasts on my way to work.
See? Both are good. Now, a very important topic. Travel and visits.
Yes. The simple one, I traveled to Italy with my family, but we need more variations.
Okay, if it's a short trip, I went to the seaside for a weekend. If it's to see people, I visited my grandparents in the countryside.
What about if you didn't travel far? You can say, I explored my own city. I visited 3 new museums.
Love that. And if you didn't travel at all, that's okay too. I didn't travel abroad last year, but I enjoyed my local park.
Exactly. You're still talking about your year. Now, health and fitness. This can be simple.
I joined a gym last year. I tried to eat more fruit and vegetables.
I took long walks every Sunday. I stopped drinking sugary drinks.
They can also talk about not so good health. I had a back problem in the autumn, so I rested for a month.
Right. It's all part of life. Next, what about learning and skills? Not just hobbies, but real skills.
I improved my computer skills for my job. I learned how to use a new software program.
I became better at speaking in meetings. Or, for English, I practiced my English every day using an app.
Perfect. That's a great one for our audience. Now let's talk about daily life and routine, the small things.
This makes your story real. Last year, I usually woke up at 7 a.m. I often cooked dinner at home instead of eating out.
My evening routine was simple. I had dinner, watched one episode of a series, and read my book.
You can contrast it with the past. Before last year, I went out a lot, but last year I preferred quiet nights at home.
That's a fantastic sentence structure. Before last year, but last year. Okay, now the most important part. Feelings and results. How do you feel about what happened?
This is the key. You can say, I felt very proud when I finished the project. It made me really happy to see my family.
I was disappointed when my vacation was canceled, but it was okay. Learning to cook was challenging at first, but it became very satisfying.
And finally, the overall summary, how to wrap it all up.
Overall, it was a year of learning for me. In general, I feel positive about last year.
It wasn't the most exciting year, but it was peaceful and stable. Or, it was a truly special and unforgettable year.
Now, let's put it all together in a mini conversation. Jack, ask me about my last year, and I'll use these practical sentences.
Okay. Emma, how was your work last year?
My work was quite busy last year. I worked on several small projects. I didn't change my job, but I improved my communication skills.
What about your free time?
I took up a new hobby, photography. I didn't travel abroad, but I visited my best friend in another city. It was wonderful to see her.
How about your health?
I joined a gym, but honestly, I only went for a few months. I stopped because I got busy. But I continued to walk everywhere.
And how do you feel about last year overall?
Overall, I feel good about it. It was challenging at times, but I learned a lot. I feel proud of the small steps I took.
See, that was a perfect practical summary. It wasn't a long story, but it gave all the important information.
Now our friends can do the same. They can take these sentence building blocks and build their own story about their last year.
Building blocks. I like that. Start with a topic, choose your block, and put it together.
Exactly. And remember, you don't need to use all the blocks, just the ones that are true for you. Your year is unique.
So practice these blocks. Say them out loud. Last year, my work was, in my free time, I felt.
You'll be talking about your last year in English in no time. All right, Jack, we've told our stories. Now let's get really practical. Let's build a toolbox of sentences our friends can use.
A phrase toolbox. I love it. So we'll say the phrase and maybe explain it a little or give a quick example of when to use it.
Exactly. Let's start with the most basic way to begin. How to set the scene for your whole year.
Okay, the simplest, my last year was good. Short, clear, positive.
Or it was a busy year. Busy is a very useful word.
The opposite, it was a quiet year. Peaceful, not many big events.
Now, let's talk about beginnings, how you started the year.
I started the year with a vacation. That's what I did.
I began learning something new, a great way to show a positive change.
Or a goal. I decided to get healthier.
Moving on to work and studies, I worked on a big project.
I finished an important course.
I changed my job, a very significant event.
I got a promotion at work. That's a happy one.
Now, personal life and family. I visited my family.
I spent more time with my friends.
I traveled to Spain or any place.
I met my friends often for coffee. The small, regular things are important too.
Hobbies and free time. These are fun. I read some good books.
I watched interesting movies and TV series.
I listened to a lot of music.
I joined a gym, a classic resolution.
I played a sport like football or tennis.
I tried a new hobby, like photography.
Health is always a topic. My health was good overall.
But being honest, I was sick for a week in winter.
I tried to eat better. This shows effort, not perfection.
I felt more energetic by the end of the year.
Talking about the weather or seasons. The weather was terrible last summer.
We had a beautiful warm spring.
I had a good time in the spring, connecting season to feeling.
Last winter felt very long. Everyone understands that.
Now the big feelings and achievements. My biggest achievement was passing my driving test.
A difficult moment was when I was between jobs.
I felt very happy when I saw my old friends.
I felt proud of my team at work.
I learned a lot about myself. A deep but useful phrase.
What about time? If you had none or lots? I didn't have much free time.
Or, I had a lot of free time to relax.
My daily routine was very simple.
Give an example. Every day I went to work, then went home.
After work, I usually relaxed and watched TV.
On weekends, I often went out for walks.
Let's be specific with time phrases. In January, I started my new hobby.
By December, I could speak a little better. By shows progress up to a point.
For things you didn't do, I didn't travel abroad.
I didn't have any big changes, and that was okay.
Some things, like my job, stayed the same.
Now, memories, the sweet part. My favorite memory is from our summer trip.
I will always remember the birthday party you made for me.
At the beginning of the year, I was nervous.
In the middle of the year, things got very busy.
By the end of the year, I felt tired but happy.
We need some summary sentences. How to give your final opinion.
Overall, it was a positive year for me. Overall is a fantastic word.
It was a challenging year, but I grew a lot.
It was an ordinary year, and I enjoyed the simplicity.
It was a special year because of my new family member, a new baby or a pet.
And finally, the personal conclusion. I'm happy with how my last year went.
Phew, that's a lot of phrases, Emma. But you know what? Saying them like this in groups makes sense.
It does. We didn't just list them, we talked about where they fit. This is for work, this is for feelings, this is for time.
And our friends can mix and match. They can take I felt proud when and add their own achievement.
Exactly. The structure is the tool. They fill it with their own life. So don't try to remember all 50 at once. Pick 5 that are true for your last year and start with those.
Perfect advice. Start small, build your story. You've got all the pieces right here.
Let's slow down for a moment and look at some of the key words we've been using. These are the building blocks for talking about your year. Jack, should we explain them one by one?
Let's do it. We'll say the word, explain it simply, and then use it in a sentence from our own lives. That way it's practical.
Perfect. I'll start. The word achievement. An achievement is something you did successfully, often after some work. It's a win, a success.
So, for example, my sentence is, my biggest achievement last year was completing that difficult project at work. It wasn't easy, so finishing it felt like an achievement.
Exactly. My achievement was different. Getting my cooking certificate was a personal achievement for me.
Next word, routine. Your routine is your usual way of doing things, your regular schedule or habit.
So you could say, my morning routine is always the same. Shower, coffee, then check my emails.
And a year has routines too. My weekend routine last year involved grocery shopping and calling my parents.
Now, busy. This is such a useful word. It simply means you have many things to do with not much free time.
It can be good or bad. December is always a busy month with holidays. That's a neutral one.
Or, I was too busy with work, so I canceled my gym membership. That's a more negative cause.
The opposite might be relaxing. This means something that makes you feel calm and peaceful, not stressed.
My holiday by the beach was very relaxing. Nothing to do, just sun and a book.
Even a day can be relaxing. Sunday was my relaxing day. I did nothing at all.
Now a verb. To join. This means to become a member of a group, club, or activity.
I joined a new team at work. Or she joined a book club to meet people.
My example is from last year. I joined a beginner's cooking class in March.
Another great verb, to improve. This means to become better at something or to make something better.
I wanted to improve my Spanish, so I used a language app. You're getting better.
And you can improve things, not just skills. The weather improved in the afternoon, so we went for a walk.
Here's a crucial linking word. Overall. We use this to talk about the general feeling after considering everything.
It's like a summary word. The movie was long, but overall, I enjoyed it.
For a year, you say, overall, it was a good year, even with a few problems.
The word challenging. This means difficult, but in a way that tests your abilities. It's often used in a positive way to talk about growth.
My new job was challenging for the first few months. It was hard, but I was learning.
Running a marathon is physically challenging. It's tough, but people do it for the achievement.
A beautiful word. Memory. A memory is something you remember from the past. It can be good or bad, but we often talk about the good ones.
My favorite memory from last year is our trip to the mountains. It's a moment I keep in my mind.
You can also say, I have very happy childhood memories of baking with my grandma.
How about skill? A skill is an ability to do something well, usually because you learned or practiced it.
Cooking is a useful skill. Communication is an important skill at work.
My sentence, last year I developed my problem-solving skills during the project.
To cancel. This means to decide that something that was planned will not happen.
We had to cancel the picnic because of the rain.
Sadly, my example, I canceled my dentist appointment because I was sick.
A positive word, proud. This is the feeling of pleasure you get when you or someone you care about does something good.
I felt very proud when I cooked my first full dinner for friends.
My parents are proud of my sister for graduating university.
Let's do two about time. At the beginning and by the end, we use these to frame a period.
At the beginning of the year, I was full of energy and new goals.
By the end of the year, I felt tired but satisfied with what I'd done. You see the change from start to finish.
Ordinary. This means normal, not special or different. It's not a bad thing.
It was an ordinary Tuesday. Nothing special happened. Most days are ordinary, and that's okay.
I enjoy the ordinary moments, like a quiet coffee on the balcony.
The opposite, special. This means not ordinary, important in some way, or different and better.
My birthday is a special day for me.
We made a special dinner to celebrate the achievement.
A very common noun, goal. A goal is something you hope to achieve, an aim or a target.
My goal last year was to read 12 books. I only read 7, but a goal is what you aim for.
Our team's goal was to finish the project by June.
And finally, let's explain progress. This is the movement towards a goal or becoming better. It's not always finishing, it's the improvement.
I made good progress on my project in the first month.
Even though my English isn't perfect, I can see my progress from last year. It's about the journey, not just the destination.
Wow, we covered a lot of words, but explaining them like this with our own stories makes them easier to remember, don't you think?
Absolutely. You don't need a dictionary definition. You need to know how to use the word in your story. These words help you tell it better.
So take these words: achievement, routine, busy, challenging, memory, and proud. These are the colors for painting the picture of your last year.
Beautifully said, Jack. Now our friends have more colors for their palette. Now it's your turn to practice. This is the repeat after us section. We will say a short, useful phrase about last year. Then we will leave a quiet space for you to say it out loud. Don't be shy. Speaking is the best way to learn.
That's right. We'll start very simple and build up. Ready, Emma?
Ready. Let's start with the most important time phrase. Repeat after me. Last year.
Good. Now let's say something we did. Repeat after me. I worked.
Let's put them together. Last year, I worked.
Let's add a detail. I worked on a project.
Excellent. Now a different topic. Repeat after me. I learned.
I learned to cook.
I learned a new skill.
Wonderful. Now let's talk about travel. Repeat after me. I traveled.
I traveled to Spain. Or you can say your country or city.
What if you didn't travel? That's okay. Repeat after me. I didn't travel.
Good. You can explain why. I was too busy. Repeat that.
Now some feeling words. These are powerful. Repeat after me. I felt happy.
I felt proud.
I felt tired sometimes.
Perfect. Let's make a longer sentence now. We'll build it piece by piece. First, at the beginning.
At the beginning
Of the year.
of the year.
At the beginning of the year, I was nervous.
Great. Now let's do the end. By the end.
By the end of the year.
By the end of the year, I felt confident.
You're doing so well. Let's practice questions. Imagine someone is asking you. Repeat after me. How was your year?
And you can answer, it was good.
Or, it was busy and fun.
Let's practice talking about free time. Repeat, in my free time.
In my free time, I read books.
I watched movies.
I met my friends.
Now, the word because. It helps you explain. Repeat, because.
Use it in a sentence. I didn't exercise much because I was busy.
One of the most important phrases, my biggest achievement was.
Finish it. My biggest achievement was learning to drive. Or anything you did.
And finally, let's summarize. Repeat this full sentence. Overall, it was a positive year.
One more time, with feeling. Overall, it was a positive year.
Amazing job. You just said over 20 useful phrases. How did that feel?
I hope it felt good. Remember, the goal isn't perfection. The goal is practice. Your mouth is learning how to make these English sounds.
And your brain is remembering the patterns. Last year, I felt. In my free time,
Try to say 3 of these phrases every day this week. Say them in the shower or while you're making coffee. Just get used to the sound of your own voice speaking English about your life.
you are building a habit. And you're building confidence. We are so proud of you for practicing with us today.
Truly. Now, let's get ready for a little quiz to test what you remember. Wow, Jack, we covered so much today, didn't we?
We really did. I feel like we just took a long, friendly walk through the whole last year, and we had our learners walking right alongside us.
Exactly. Let's take a final moment to look back on what we practiced together. The main goal was learning how to talk about your last year in English.
Which is a huge and useful skill. We started by just chatting about our own year, the projects, the cooking classes, the visits, the quiet times.
And from that big conversation, we pulled out the practical tools. We gave you those building block sentences for work, hobbies, travel, and feelings. You can mix and match those to build your own story.
Then we dove into the specific phrases, 50 of them, so you have a whole toolbox to choose from. You don't need them all, just the ones that fit your life.
After that, we stopped to really look at the key words. Words like achievement, routine, challenging, and overall. Understanding these words helps you paint a clearer picture.
Then came the really important part, your turn to speak, the repeat after us section. Because we can talk all day, but you speaking is how the magic happens.
And finally, our little quiz, a fun way to check what stuck, to practice recognizing those past tense verbs and useful words.
So, if you take nothing else away from today, remember this structure. Start with last year, talk about a few key events in your life, use simple past tense, and share how you felt about it. That's the recipe.
Beautifully simple. Now for our favorite part, the question of the day. This is how you can practice right now in the comments.
Today's question is, what was one good thing about your last year? It can be big or small. One good thing was my holiday, or one good thing was my new hobby. We want to hear from you.
We read every single comment. And when you write in English, you're practicing. And when you read other people's comments, you're learning from them too. We are a community here at Talk Nora.
A very supportive community. So please say hello, answer the question, tell us where you're from. We love getting to know you.
And if today's lesson was helpful for you, please do us a huge favor. Give this video a thumbs up. That little like button tells YouTube that this video is useful so it can show it to other learners like you.
And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. Subscribing is free, and hitting the bell means you'll get a notification every time we post a new lesson. We don't want you to miss our next adventure in English.
What is our next adventure, Jack?
Ah, that's a secret. But I'll give a hint. It's another everyday topic everyone needs. Maybe how to talk about your future plans, or how to describe your city. You'll have to subscribe to find out.
Tease, but seriously, we prepared these lessons with so much love for all of you. We know learning a language is brave. It takes time. Some days are easy, some days are hard.
So be kind to yourself. Celebrate the small wins. If you can say, last year I worked and I traveled, that is a fantastic win. Start small. You don't need to tell a novel on the first try.
Just keep talking to us in the comments, to a friend, or even to yourself in the mirror. Your voice in English is a wonderful thing. We are so proud of you for using it today.
Incredibly proud. Thank you for spending your time with us. Thank you for your amazing energy.
From both of us, take care